It says everyone can see and hear you. Oh my God, we're
All
live.
right. We are live. My goodness. Oh, and here's Erica. Okay.
Oh,
Hi, everybody. It's Craig Fisher. This is Inside Talent from Unleash America. We're at the Horsefly booth. I've got Erica Oliver and Kyle Lagunas, and boy, we are having some fun.
I have cheese popcorn.
hey. Yes.
Okay. Well, so to all of you watching remotely, please bear with us if it's not the clearest audio. It's noisy here, but we're going to have a serious conversation about some recruiting stuff. Kyle,
Ooh.
you did a thing yesterday. Tell us about it.
Oh, I did several things yesterday. I did dips, I did twirls, I did flips, a couple of death drops. You'll have to be more specific.
Okay, your presentation.
Oh, the work stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, so if anybody's been at Unleashed before, on the day before the event, they have a bunch of pre-summits, and I presented at the HR Tech and Transformation Summit, which is for practitioner leaders in HR, and I talked about the state of HR transformation, like looking at a new budget for tech this year, looking at where people are planning to invest. We shared research on like the big three trends that are shaping transformation projects now. And then I gave it the realness treatment and told them things they need to be mindful of as they're leading transformation into their organizations this year.
Love that. Mindfulness. So
Love that
important.
for you.
Yes.
All right, so can you tell us two of the big three things? I don't want to steal all your thunder from your yesterday presentation.
No, there's no thunder to steal. Actually, it's so funny. I was like, I had them guess. I tried, we speak a lot. We try to get them to engage. And I'm like, all right, here's the hint for the trend number one. It's HR's favorite two-letter word. Any guesses?
AI.
Thank God.
Hey.
You know what the first guess was?
What?
They said no.
Second favorite word.
I was like, that's not the trend. So AI, of course, is the first one. And the next one was HR's favorite five-letter word. Any guesses?
Is this an acronym or is it a full word?
No, full word.
Let's see. Risk is only 4 letters.
Skills.
Oh, yes.
It's really too much about risk. Skills-based everything, honestly. And then the third one, what was the third one? In data. Yeah, data. Data is power. And I mean, honestly, so for those who don't know, I know that you both do, but I work at Aptitude Research. It's founded by Madeline Lorano, and we study innovation cycles in the world of HR tech. And so we publish a lot of research. This is all new stuff that we have, like projects we've had underwritten this spring. So it's really exciting to have the opportunity to like debut these initial findings at this show. And I actually was talking to, do you guys know who Bill Cleary is? He's a consultant in HR. He was saying, Kyle, you could have taken one of those slides and spoken for the whole 30 minutes. So that's good feedback. They're like, it's all substantive. There's a lot of stuff there. So I did the Kyle treatment. I just like flew through it all. And then I did a death drop at the end.
That's funny. You once told me that you don't like 20-minute presentations because you barely finished introducing yourself by the time it's over.
I mean, how far are we into this live stream? And I just got through 3 trends.
Mm-hmm. And that was fast. I mean, now go ahead and introduce yourself. Okay. Erica, how's it going with you?
I am doing great. First time wearing glasses on one of these things. Will not do that again. Trying the new, what is it, the Meta View thingy. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Right. So it's like headphones, disguises like the bags under my eyes from like a overnight trip. But yeah, this has been great. It's my first HR Unleashed here with my colleague Tim. Tim, thank you for putting this together. It's been amazing. Will's here somewhere, CEO. We're going to try to get him on, but I'm doing great. This is amazing. I'm excited to be with you two wonderful gents. I don't think an hour would be nearly enough. next time we should do it with a cold beverage.
We should do with a cold beverage for sure.
100%.
My ice water is pretty cold.
I don't think that's what she's talking about.
No, the data shows.
So I'll tell you a fun story. Unleash started in Amsterdam.
No way.
Yeah, it did. And back then it was called HR Tech Europe. And we're not allowed to say that because HR Tech sued HR Tech Europe.
Well, you did mess that up just now, didn't you?
Yeah, and it became Unleash. But so
Blame it on the edit.
the founder of Unleash, Mark Coleman, is a friend of mine, and I helped to get this whole thing kicked off in Amsterdam many years ago. And on one of those Amsterdam trips, Will Staney was with us. His name's Matthew now. Okay, he didn't get sued by HR Tech, but he did change names. And he's here somewhere, but he was wearing Google glasses. The original.
Oh my God.
Google Glass.
Right?
I remember that.
And do you remember what we called him?
A nerd.
A glasshole.
A glass hole. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
And he was very much that. We're broadcasting. How's it going? Good to see you.
Get in the zone. Auto zone. It's our friend Julia Levy.
Yeah.
Join us.
Yeah, we're having a good time.
Say hi to the people. Hey.
Julia Levy, everyone. Our favorite person. Okay, so on the stream, we've got Carrie and Jennifer, Catherine, Lindsay. Are there questions from the audience?
I guess it's girls' night.
Yep.
Hey, girls.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to point something out. This lapel thing is an ingenious gift from Flockety.
Mm-hmm.
So Flockety is one of my new favorite things, and they're going to get some free press here. They built an influencer marketing platform for recruiting that utilizes TikTok as its main platform. So
That's brilliant.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, until we find out what happens with TikTok.
That's right. So, and let's talk about that real quick. I feel like TikTok is just coming into its own in the recruiting circles.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of employers do some really cool things showcasing their employer brand and their employees on TikTok. I personally love TikTok, but I'm also a person whose data and profile have been out in the world for a long, long time. And so I don't have as many privacy issues as some people do. But I also have a new doppelganger every other day that I have to report to Instagram.
What do you mean?
Facebook. People who pretend to be me and then go friend to my friends and try to.
Why would anybody want to be you? Just kidding.
Listen, stay tuned for later on today.
So if you ever get a request from someone that looks like me that's not me, please let me know. But it's not TikTok's fault, is my point. Kyle, you participate in TikTok.
I don't.
You don't?
No.
I'm in it for the recipes. I love the recipes.
No,
They slap.
I'm a geriatric millennial. I consume TikTok videos as reels on Instagram.
Okay, I'm not against that. I may or might do the same thing. Here's my question, though. When you think about like using TikTok for recruiting or consuming that information on Instagram, how do you measure it across multiple platforms? Like, how do you best determine like TikTok is the best influencer method, or how do you do that?
No, all of these platforms have very good advertising engines, and they give you very strict metrics around user counts and clicks and things like that. And so in the end, just like any marketing, you're trying to drive traffic to a place.
Yeah.
Okay. If the place can be measured, your effectiveness can be measured.
Okay.
Right. And so TikTok, like anything else, or Reels or anything, you want people to click a button
Yep.
and go to a landing page. The landing page is trackable.
See.
The call to action is, yeah.
That's right. That's it.
But I mean, does there have to be a call to action? I say because, well, I guess hashtags are back. You can look and see what kind of hashtags are trending and trying to get your content to trend.
Yep.
When I was at General Motors, we actually had a couple of folks in the engineering group, young people, who on their own had run some pilots of like employer brand content to share like what it's like to work at GM as a software engineer.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
That's brilliant.
And I just valued it as it was.
Yeah.
We were not sure what to do with it. I was excited to use it, but we weren't sure. We didn't have our social media policy was not ready to embrace TikTok. But it was neat to just see people organically using it. And I think that's like just like with any recruitment or with any marketing content, the organic is what you hope to inspire.
Yeah.
And maybe that curated, crafted is what you drive to try and get that organic engagement.
If you give employees a reason to have something to say beyond just please advertise this job for referrals, then they'll do it. So if there's something in it for them, right? Like, we're going to give you some other things to say about what you like about working here, but we're also going to help you build your network and build trust in your network and grow your career and other positive what's in it for me things. They'll do it. And you don't really even have to ask much. And then also, if you as the organization then takes their posts and repost it and highlight them on the company page, well, everybody loves that.
Yeah, I do too.
When I was with Allegis, Kyle, you know this, I got to do some of that employer brand work with GM. And we were just dipping into trying to do that thing on Instagram with GM. And it never really got kicked off because we got into the same compliance issues that you were facing.
Yeah. It's just so interesting. It's like, there's so many cool things you can do.
Yeah.
And that's welcome to the world of HR. You don't get to do all the cool stuff.
Right.
You know?
That's funny. Roadblocks and blockers in organizations are the biggest impediment to creative people in this space, if you ask me. Right? And that's fine. People do have to have reasons to say no. I found that you can get to yes a lot easier with data than with, right? And you have to know how to make that compelling argument. So if you're going to try to get money for something or budget for something as, a member of the HR team, which we all extended by default are, go looking for data points and go looking for cost savings and ROI. If you take an initiative to senior management and say, look here, we're spending this money and we spend the money because you give us the budget. And if we don't spend it, we lose it. So we spend it. But what if we could take $350,000 and use it better?
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that you can get approval for.
I'll take $350,000.
Yeah. As will I. As will I.
Yeah.
But your point, Craig, about like that, optimizing, that sort of investment, it goes back to like measuring what matters. And so and thinking about recruitment and those metrics and thinking about like, what are the right things to measure? How do we track that as things change? And how do we integrate that with a variety of different data points? Like, I feel like that's something that people are constantly trying to solve for. And we were talking the other day that it really hasn't been discussed enough. Like, even though some places aren't hiring as much as they used to be, I mean, now is the time to really get those recruitment metrics rock solid and, to really get like building your talent pools in a really data-driven, mindful way. So, I mean, I guess my question for both of you is, why do you think that's not really happening right now?
Dude, I have so many opinions. Hey, first of all, I'm so annoyed that we don't garden. Like, the people think you can garden when you're hungry.
That's it. That's it.
Like, all right, well, now it's time to start planting tomatoes.
Right.
Like, girl, I need a BLT right now. But listen, the data piece, I think during COVID, everything was so crazy.
Yeah.
And recruiters were under so much pressure, and employers were struggling to retain recruiters.
Yeah.
So we really backed off a lot on recruiting metrics.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, no, don't you micromanage me. I've got 87 recs. Like, I'm just going to get it. I'm just hold me accountable for the hires. And I think as we look at a lot of the impacts that we've had, a lot of the, rifts and budget cuts, we lost track of quantifying performance.
Yeah.
I think we struggled. We've always struggled to show ROI for things like TikTok, or whatever. But we backed off at the wrong time when we should have probably gotten even more disciplined. People are so afraid to create accountability again, because it's just, we're in, again, sensitive space.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't imagine during COVID, salespeople not having performance metrics anymore.
Oh, for real. Literally. Will never happen.
But recruiting now, I am not seeing us coming back and forth with recruiter scorecards.
Yeah.
And we should.
Yeah.
Yep.
We absolutely
You're not going to get to your full ROI and performance story if you don't have at your operational level. Like, I don't know what's working, because all I can point to is how many hires everybody's making each month.
And so it's
or not making.
Well, you're making a good point.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do when employers come to me and say, we need to fix X, Y, or Z, I say, how many licks does it get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? Or how many employees do you have right this second? And how many different places would you have to go to tell me that, to find the data?
Yeah.
Right? It's something everyone should know. How many employees do we need to get the work done that we're trying to do, that we're forecast for? I mean, all of these things we should know at the drop of a hat on a daily basis, what our goals are, how we're attaining them, what our churn rate is, but
Totally.
we don't. So one of the questions that we had from the audience is, what are you seeing that's transformative in the recruiting space as it relates to AI? Okay, so AI should be able to tell us these things, right? At the drop of a hat. You should be able to connect all your systems. And I built a SaaS platform like this with Allegiance called Quantum Work. But it was Frankenstein software. We had to connect the MSP and the HRIS system and the ATS system and the CRM and the
a lot of piping.
A lot of piping. Yeah. And I think now with AI, we can take all this data that we've been sitting on and not really doing much with for years and really make some sense of it.
I totally agree. And I think on the heels of what both of you guys have said too, it's there are companies that are still hiring at an explosive rate, so it's not across the board. But I think, especially for the TA folks in the audience, I would be remiss not to acknowledge the continued layoffs, lack of rehiring, the people that are out there waiting for new jobs, so on and so forth. But so the folks that are in TA still, and maybe with not as many recs as normal, now's the time to garden. So, from our purview, from a Horsefly perspective, let's take the use case of sourcing as an example. There are certain roles that are always going to be difficult. Engineering is always going to be rough. People are looking to hire great talent, try to mitigate costs. So I think a great performance metric to think about is, how do you build talent pools strategically based off of data, thinking about, we just launched a new feature yesterday called cost of living. And so it's a great way to look city by city, make comparisons. If you're looking to hire in St. Louis versus looking to hire in San Francisco for a software engineer, chances are the pricing's going to be different. And so what a great opportunity, even if you don't have a full slate of engineers available, to reach out to those folks that meet the bar. So I think that's one thing as far as just planting the seeds now, so that hopefully, and we've seen this so many times, haven't we, where things are light and then there's a huge uptick again in hiring. It's oh my gosh, we've got so many recs to fill, how do we do it?
Oh, we start from scratch again?
Yeah. Like, why? You
Oh, because the
think
CRMs don't work.
That's right.
Good Lord.
done.
And
So
also because we're not disciplined. Like if we come
Yeah.
back to the data piece, like I do get it. Like we had a real culture crisis where we couldn't push people too hard. We did need to just get through the crazy, right? But we lost discipline.
Yeah.
And so it's I like the advice and recommendation to start planting seeds now, and I do like the idea of taking the quiet times to clean house. Like, girl, you know you have a whole bunch of candidates in those evergreen recs that need to be dispositioned.
that's right.
Like,
That's it.
you know, like there's a whole bunch of cleaning up to do. Let's create some metrics for our folks that aren't doing a lot of hiring right now
Yeah.
to go and do the rest of what recruiting operations really is.
That's it. Oh my gosh, you just made me think of executive hiring. And look, we all love our friends in executive search. I was in it internally. I love my friends out there. Love you, love you, love you. But not everyone wants to pay $300,000 to hire a VP of engineering. And so when you don't, I know, or 350 if we want to go back to that number. And so, like, what a great opportunity. Like, let's say you're not hiring a boatload of engineers, you're wanting to increase your gender diversity and leadership. What a great time to look at data, look at what the external market looks like, and then start having those ongoing conversations like our friends in executive search do all of the time to
All the
get
time.
ready and stay ready.
All the time.
And the discipline that you're talking about, like present the external data to your stakeholders, like saying, I know you're not hiring right now,
Yes.
but you will at some point, you know?
I completely. And so, you know, we've been in talent acquisition for a while. We've seen like it evolve from recruiting to talent acquisition, right? And we've also seen conversations about the recruiter role, like becoming a talent advisor, you know, and a talent consultant. And guess what consultants have? Discipline,
That's it.
data, you know, proactive operations. They are on top of their shit.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just mean like keeping my applicants like candidates happy while they're in interview process.
That's it.
You know, it does mean staying on top of my market,
Yeah.
knowing what's going on in my space, building relationships with like passive talent. There's a lot of work that can be done all the time that is not just filling recs.
That's it.
And you know, you'd also said earlier, like at any moment, Craig, you said like we should know what kind of hiring we need to be doing. But guess what? The very last people to find out when there's a new talent need is us.
100%.
There is you can't be proactive in talent acquisition if you don't like actually proactive if you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
So spend this time leaning in with the HRBPs, finding out what's going on in the business.
Yeah.
You know, and what's like how are we feeling? What projects are coming, you know, and like, you know, how open are we to fully remote talent right now? Or do I need to start thinking about hybrid next quarter? Like, you know, there's just a lot that we can be doing.
Kyle, you seem to be talking about old school recruiting. Isn't that what we were always
It's
taught?
all back to basics, baby. It's all back to basics.
Yeah.
So, Erica, what you said about adding the cost of living feature in the Horsefly dashboard is interesting and unique because what we're used to is just a number that's spit out per city about how much we should be paying on average without the justification behind it of, well, this is what the cost of living there is, and that's why this is the suggestion. And I know that even in roles like my wife has with Mr. Cooper Group, she needs to know these sorts of things because she's moving people around the world.
Wow.
And so, you know, that's a really good data point. And the platforms I've seen don't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, we're super excited about this, and I appreciate you saying that, Craig. It's like, again, we released it in beta. I should put that asterisk in there. But as we were doing some internal testing, you know, something that I thought was really interesting, you know, we even had some thoughts like, okay, is this right? Is this right? So on and so forth. Like the cost of living is changing dramatically in a variety of places. Going back to the pandemic, there are places that were not that expensive to live or not that expensive to hire from that have changed. So you think about the United States, like, I mean, there are some places, I don't even want to say exactly where I live, but I live outside of the greater Boston area. You and I both are in the greater Boston area. And there are places that were not very expensive at all. But a lot of people from like the heart of the city moved to these
Yeah.
places, and like
Inflated.
it's inflate like rent. We've talked about that. This another podcast. Rent has like increased 35% just in the
That's
last
nuts.
year in some places. And so, as we're testing and going through beta on the cost of living feature, we're doing it at the city level for that reason. So taking Boston again as a use case, chances are like Newton is going to be a lot more expensive than maybe, I don't know, because everything in Boston seems so expensive,
Big
but
girl.
like city by city, we got to take a look at. We've
Rent
talked
is
about
not any cheaper down in the burbs.
right. It's just wild, and we've talked about this in terms of the variety of reasons for moving out of the city in the Dallas Fort Worth area. That's got to be impacting like the DFW suburbs too. And so this is where it's a powerful tool for talent acquisition, obviously, but it's also powerful for location strategy. To your point,
Yeah.
real estate, like thinking like, okay, do we want to invest in like, are we going to shut down office X and open up office Y? Sure, it's less expensive, but is the talent there? So there's so many things. Again, going back
Girl, you know
to,
the answer is we're not opening any more offices until people return to work.
I can't with you. I can't.
You know, actually though, there's something that is, so I didn't know that the product announcement today. Congrats. That's
Thank you.
exciting. Something that I struggled with when I was a team leader was pay equity.
Yeah.
And I think that the virtual remote movement really messed with that a lot.
Yeah.
Because, okay, sure, Craig lives in Topeka, Kansas, and I live in San Francisco, and my cost of living is extremely high, and so they're going to pay me $250,000 to do the same exact job that Craig is doing in Topeka.
Yep.
It's going to create a really complex challenge for like comp planning.
Yeah.
Right. And for HR to maintain equity, you know, I mean, if, you know, we all talk about like women make 70 cents to the dollar that a man makes.
Yep.
I wonder how these numbers pan out if we start looking at hiring. We find, oh, there's actually a lot of women in, I'm going to say like Topeka or Little Rock. Like there's a whole bunch of women in tech in Little Rock. There was like these schools recruited a bunch of women. And,
Yep.
you know, boot camps got a lot of women. And so we're going to hire a whole bunch. The cost of living is lower there.
Yeah.
And so if I do run that kind of analysis, it's going to look like we have a major pay equity gap.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering like the current state of pay equity in that sense.
Yeah.
Because you're talking through, I'm like, this is potentially, it's good business,
Yeah.
but it's really complicated HR stuff.
And that's why now is the time, like we need to get back to that place of discipline of measuring what matters. And I think we've all talked about this in terms of talent acquisition professionals, like the cross-functional collaboration that can and should exist a lot more. Now is the time to work together cross-functionally to define what do we need to measure, not just have it come down as an edict on TA being like, okay, here's what your metrics need to be. Have it be data-driven, looking at,
and don't go it alone.
That's it. That's it.
Right? It's like somebody just called out, like, work with your HR VPs. You should be getting ahead of these conversations.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
They should be in the loop. They should be working with the business leaders to be making the decisions.
That's it.
Right. But we can bring them that data. We can bring them that insight. That's what we do as market experts and talent advisors, is come in and say, hey, this is a really good idea. I'm seeing some great opportunities for us to source and hire from other places to hit, you know, important targets. And I'm just a little worried about this piece. And that's not my job. That's yours. So, you know.
There's something that I've heard, and you guys have probably heard it too, but our friends over the Talent Intelligence Collective, they've definitely been sharing some ideas around, you know, we need to stop being so segmented with our data and pull all of this together and think about this really as kind of like, what's the workforce intelligence? And so again, instead of TA being, you know, designated to the TA ecosystem. We were rock stars when we needed to fill 8,000 billion jobs, and now so many people are laid off, and it's just like, it breaks my heart for my friends who are out there in that situation. Whereas if we actually just brought together a group of TA, HR, talent intelligence, workforce workforce planning, such a huge buzzword. Guess what? Like, just all get together and talk about all of our different data points.
So guess what you just said? All right, I was talking about HR transformation yesterday, the state of the number one most impactful thing for transformation in HR is workforce planning. From the survey that we just ran by a mile.
Yeah.
Because look, we all have to get on the same page. It's a really important business exercise.
Yep.
Otherwise, we're just order filling. We're just,
That's it.
it wrecks over the wall. It's never gone away because we don't know what's coming. We're not a part of the conversation. We're just filling orders.
Yep.
So there's a really key point for all of you listening, and for those of you listening in the future. Do not take your job and the company's business for granted.
That's it.
Constantly be looking at your own set of parameters, right? If you're using too many staffing firms, if you're overpaying for X, Y, and Z, if we're not utilizing 90% of our CRM,
Yeah.
right? Take these things to the business and say, hey, look, this is a business issue, right? And constantly be thinking about how to be more efficient in your space. And you'll be valuable in your job and to the organization if you do that.
You're so right, Craig. And we just again, let's look at the external data. Let's look at the internal data. And then let's not forget the one thing, and you're going to love me for saying this, Craig, because it's old school recruiting. We can't forget about the human intelligence piece of business strategy, right? So it's like AI is amazing, all these different data points. Obviously, I love my product. I mean, I love Horsefly, so on and so forth. The reality is what makes any kind of data set powerful is the combination with human intelligence. And who's on the front lines of that?
That's right.
Talent acquisition.
Yeah, right. I feel like we have spent so much time in recruiting, in sourcing, recruitment marketing, learning. We have been just reporting.
Yeah.
We're just reporting out.
Yep.
And not actually sitting down and just digging into data together.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're not really studying things to look for opportunities or issues. I'm just running my report to wrap up for the week.
Yeah. Right.
And we're doing the same thing when we're wrapping up for the quarter, and when we get together for our SLT HR meetings, we're not really sitting down and digging in. And I think that's why data gets so siloed, because you actually don't know what data I have. You just see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So how could we actually democratize data if you don't even know to ask for anything else?
That's it.
And I also will be like, no, you got to get the hell away from my reports. I'm not going to let you see what's going on back here. These are the reports we agreed on,
So I get to dig into that data for a living, right? I mean, that's
cool.
That's my
it's
fun
awesome.
little thing that keeps me loving work, right? And so I get to work with big employers, and I get to say, okay, I need access to the HRIS team. I want to sit in on your vendor meetings, access to all these reports. I want to get in the back end of your CRM and your ATS, and I get to really crunch those numbers, and it's fun. I'm telling you, people.
Can I ask, how nervous do people get? Because you've been in consulting for a long time. That some people think they want a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they're like, well, why do you want this?
So a lot of it is the syndrome of that's just the way we do it.
Yeah.
And that's the way we've done it.
Yep.
And there's no good reason for it. And when you bring a good data point, and I'm just going to go back to cost savings or recruiting efficiency, whatever it is, and say, look, your jobs are showing up on Indeed looking like they're 3 years old because you've been reusing a template in your ATS forever. And HRIS doesn't want to change.
But legal signed off on those job descriptions.
But
so I'm not going back through that.
You could have all this better share of voice and ranking on Google and all these things. If you just did this, and it's going to be painful for 6 months, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, yes, they don't love it, but they'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask what you guys are seeing in the space in terms of appetite for new ideas and change. So I feel like there was so much disruption during
Yeah.
the last 5 years. So we had a lot of change fatigue.
Yeah. True.
How are people feeling now? Because I feel like last year was also disruptive, but like we all kind of went to ground.
Yeah.
You know, how are we feeling as we're coming up and like getting our breath again, and maybe looking out around? People are hiring again. CA leaders, recruiters are getting new jobs. How open are we as the workers to new things and new change? What are you seeing?
Well, some of us love it,
Yeah. 100%.
but most people don't.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, change management is a big part of what consultants have to do, right? And that means, okay, yeah, a new leader comes along in TA or
Yep.
HR or
Or
executive
the C
team.
level. Yeah. So
Yeah,
many
executive
Yeah.
team, and they bring in their favorite sales rep or technology or whatever, and
Or
things
the new
are going
CEO
to
of
change.
Allstate says everyone can change jobs on day one for
Yeah.
internal mobility.
Are you
Yeah.
serious? Wow. That's bold.
But
Without
things are
talking to
gonna
HR first.
change. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
But most people aren't
I
prepared
don't know
for
if that's true, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people aren't prepared for that. And
Mhm.
so change management is a real thing. It has to happen.
Yeah. I was talking, so you asked me how did my thing go yesterday, and I was like, which one? Because I also joined. Do you guys know the Talk Talent Acquisition Leadership Council? I wasn't familiar with it.
I know.
It's a professional networking group for TA leaders, as it sounds. And we sat down with Sarah Smart from JP Morgan Chase and Kelly Cartwright from Splunk. Very tenured, seasoned change agents, transformative talent leaders. And we were talking about who do you partner with on AI initiatives? Who's like a good partner for you? And they both said, I immediately bring my change management person along for the ride because they need to be in the room when they hear the objections or
Yeah.
questions from legal and compliance. They need to be in the room whenever people are like you're meeting with recruiters and trying to study like what's going on with their jobs,
Yeah.
and change management needs to be plugged in
Yeah.
from the beginning. And I have seen a lot of, you probably have seen a lot of these tech initiatives. We don't start to tag in change management until we're like are ready to just start going live and putting training materials together.
Yeah.
Change management is not the program you pick up once you start trying to get adoption. You need to start bringing them along the journey of what is the problem, what solutions do we look at, what concerns do we have. Like, great, I'm going to be ready to go when you are.
You just said something that made a huge light bulb go off in my head. I mean, seriously, you brought it. Is the fact that many companies, small and large, don't have that function or capacity as a part of the remit. And I think that's why, to answer your first question directly, yeah, I think there's a ton of change fatigue for a lot of people. I'm like you, Craig. Like I tend to like embrace it and be like, let's see what we can do. But there's another side of me that does like my routine. Like I like my routine, and I think if you think about all the companies that have had significant layoffs, even outside of TA, Google just had pretty big riff in January, and I think as a result, people want to attach to what feels normal. So in the data space for us, it's like if there's a shift in what the salaries are showing, or if there's a shift in whatever the data is reflecting, it happens in TA, it happens with executives where it's like, that's wrong. I know this is wrong. And it's kind of like,
Isn't that hilarious?
right. And so instead of being
We're like, let's be more data driven. And then the business is like, I don't agree with that data.
Yeah, exactly. We have a client, like literally, I wanted to be like, oh my God, can you repeat this? Can you say this 1,000 times over? They were talking about with their end clients, it's a large RPO in the UK, based in the UK. And they were saying sometimes, they'll use horsefly data, so on and so forth. They'll be like, okay, this isn't right. This salary isn't right. This isn't right. And then, they'll like do a double check just to like hear and then repeat back being like, it doesn't look like what you're used to because what you're used to has changed. And that's why we leverage data. And I think we should be looking at that across the entire ecosystem. People analytics for internal mobility. Workforce planning, it's a huge buzzword right now, but there are a lot of um, business units that don't really get the seat at the table that they deserve whatsoever. So yeah, I think that's a whole nother podcast right there on like maybe we get someone from you have to come back I love Craig, and maybe we get one of our
The
friends.
first one's free.
Stop. First one's free. I'll get you all the dinners you want. We had a good meal last night. But jokes aside, what I was going to say is maybe we bring one of our friends from Talent Intelligence Collective or something from People Analytics, and let's just have a
I would love
cross-functional
that.
conversation and model what our organization should be doing on the inside. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
That's super cool. Data governance is a necessary evil,
Yeah.
but it is also a huge obstacle.
Yeah.
And especially for just being more expert as a function, not just talent acquisition, but HR.
Yeah.
We really cannot be business partners if we don't have like our house in order.
Yeah.
And I would love to talk to people about like the talent analytics function. I still see it in so many instances. I'm fortunate you hire these brilliant data scientists and they're just building custom reports for you.
Yeah.
That's literally all they do.
Why? Exactly.
And I think Gen AI is going to be really cool with this,
Yep.
especially because it's NLP capabilities. It can understand a query.
Yeah.
You say, hey, tell me what's going on with my pay equity across these 3 regions and functions,
Yeah.
and it's going to produce a report for you. You've got to put that on your roadmap, bro.
Yeah. Okay, say less.
Right? Because then we can free up the nerds to do really nerdy things.
Exactly.
And we, as end users, as recruiters, we don't need to be data scientists to get some data.
Yeah.
People actually aren't super data literate.
Yeah.
But it helps to be data literate. I mean, because what we do as employers is we hire a BI guy to or girl to make some pretty reports, and then we report the pretty reports, but we're not very good at directing the BI person as to what the business use is for the pretty reports.
Craig, I'm so glad you said this. We have a large client in the gaming space and a brilliant team of talent intelligence, extraordinarily brilliant. And the challenge, the breakdown is the necessary conversations have not been had between TA and the TI group to read them in on here's the details of why this data we're looking for is important. Same thing with the HRBP. So again, it goes back to collaboration, the discipline, and defining what we need to measure, because that might change.
Well, that is where strategic workforce planning is such a hot buzzword right now, because it is an alignment exercise.
Yeah.
And I want people analytics in on those sessions too.
Yep.
Because that's the big why.
Yeah.
That's where we identify the skills that we're going to need to move the business forward or to enter this new market or to secure this revenue or whatever.
Yep.
That's where we're going to understand not just how many heads we need, but how expert they need to be and how much budget we really come up with for this headcount. And, it's like they're going to get to know the why. It's the same reason why you bring change management along with you from the beginning of something. You need to bring your data people along too.
That's it.
But
I think we've all probably worked with a C-level executive or a CEO that really cares. But we've all probably worked with one that really cared about that kind of data.
Yeah.
Right? A lot don't. A lot you never hear them ask those questions. But the ones who are really good, you'll be having a conversation about some of that data, and they will zoom in on something.
True.
Light up.
That's a good CEO right there.
So true.
Yeah, but because people aren't super data literate, I think a lot of people are actually data insecure.
Yeah,
as soon as that CEO, as soon as he starts to lean in, people start sweating.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is a very carefully crafted report.
Yeah.
I've put a very specific narrative together with this report.
Yeah.
Don't click too close, honey.
I mean, it's just phew. And Craig, to your point, I had a conversation literally at the booth with a senior leader from a Fortune 500 company. We talked about exactly that, and I watched, when you just hit somebody's soul where it's just now you're speaking the truth here. It's do you have leaders that want data to inform what they do, or do you have leaders that want data to back the decisions that they've already made? And that's just a real conversation that we also have to have about what's the situation that, our data-driven leaders are in. Are you going to inform change, or are you going to back a decision that's already done?
Yep. Look, executive culture right now is real complicated. I
Mm,
feel like they are all over the map.
yep.
And so a lot of them are making decisions right in a moment.
Yeah.
And they are going to come back to you like, hey, I'm going to need you to back me up with this.
Yeah.
Let's go and do some creative, you
So
know.
is the market to blame for this? I mean, is it because everybody's PE backed now and we don't have any choice but to make quick decisions because we're not going to have this job for 2 years? And I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot of it, right?
Hey, post-capitalism. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, here's a millennial in the room that's like anti-capitalist.
And
Because I do think that it is starting to get kind of toxic. Ooh.
right on cue. Seriously.
See?
I can't. I can't.
No, it is starting to get toxic, and I think that it's starting to make people manic. And I think that's why we're all still afraid of change right now because we don't trust it.
Yeah.
Seems like people are making uninformed decisions, like off the cuff in the moment. And like, I get it. Everyone's still in some survival mode, especially at that executive level.
Yeah.
People are bringing them down that neck, Kenny.
Yeah.
You know, but I just want to be left alone. I just want to do my job.
I
You know?
mean, I want to speak to the market. I think you guys are both so right on that. I think it's interesting when I think from any kind of investment, PE or otherwise, it's like it's it's not free money, you
No, it
That's
know?
ain't.
right.
And so it's kind of like
A
you have
lot
an
of strings
investment,
attached.
a lot, and like expectations to deliver. And you know what? Back to your point about discipline and talent acquisition, we all kind of need to get back to the core roots, being like, okay, plan A isn't working, measure the data, pivot, move on to the next thing. And I think um, I don't know. This is my kind of rebellious statement, but I do think that if you have the opportunity to lead in any way, even as an individual contributor by example, then I think there's a way to professionally and with grace stand your ground on what you're seeing, what you think is right. So to the sourcer that's been here for 3 years, that's seeing some trend in human intelligence, to the seasoned C-level with whatever kind of financial backing, like if you are measuring the right things and you're disciplined across the board, then it's kind of hard to argue with that.
Oh, yeah. And I do wonder then if for TA leaders, whether it's that team leader, the executive of the function, we need to be fostering an environment that empowers.
Yeah.
And it's not just like giving you license to just be a bad bitch.
Yep.
You know, it is saying, look, be an expert and I'll have your back.
Yep.
That means know your shit,
Yep.
show up with data,
Yep.
and you better be ready for me to click and look at it more closely. And if you are, I've got your back. You go
Yeah.
and you tell this SVP of this business unit that they are absolutely wrong about X, Y, Z in the labor market. I will be sitting right there with you, be like, and I'm going to let you talk. You know, and I think that it's just like we've got to have their recruiting's back. Like
Yeah.
I saw somebody in the chat said we need to rally the troops again. I think we all kind of got a little bit away from that like team mindset in the talent acquisition function.
I think across the board, I think there are a lot of disciplines where that team mindset went away, and it's like, what's my job? What's my checkbox? Like, let me get that done and go home.
Yeah. I mean, look, because we were in survival mode.
I know.
And look, the only way we're really going to survive is if we band together.
Yeah.
You know, and like band together through change,
Yeah.
band together through being challenged, band together with like how reactive everything is all the time. Like maybe just remind each other at the end of the day, the talent acquisition function is a team.
Yeah.
You know, and we support each other and, you know, we've got each other's backs. I just feel like it got a little bit too, I may just have that Rex over the wall environment, just like burn and churn.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
At the end of the day, we are hiring humans.
We are hiring
Yeah.
humans,
You know,
after all.
And we are humans hiring humans.
Right. And
That's
so
right.
that's what I was going to get
My
at.
next book.
I love this. But that's what I was going to get to, where it's kind of like all these things that we're talking about, like the data piece, as critical as it is, does not abstract the human. We just need to be better to each other. We need to be nicer to each
Yeah.
other. We need to stop cutting people, your own teammates, off at the knees. Like that's like when you have that fear around showing data, it's because you're not in a collaborative and team loving
It's going
space.
to paralyze you.
Yeah. And what's fun, so what I love, and Craig, thank you so much for this opportunity, for doing this with us at Unleash Kyle. Thank you so much for our maiden voyage of being able to do this together. And I want to shout out this example of like, we all met not even a year ago, but like taking a moment to have that human piece of what we're doing that is data driven, that is click driven, all those different things. It makes things like this be so much more impactful. So
Look, if you're going to give me a stage to talk about this, like I will always be here.
hey,
I mean, look, you can feel the emotion in the room when you're speaking and you say recruiting is really hard, isn't it? And people are like,
exactly.
Yeah.
we got a lot of trauma to unload.
Yeah.
Let's have each other's backs.
You know what's that trauma to unload, and you've probably seen it too, at the executive level. My side hustle and executive coaching, the number of the real hard conversations, and even thinking from a collaboration perspective, like, let's get in the data, let's dig in the data, but let's also stop and pause and remember the humanity of who we're going through the trenches with.
Oh, 100%.
I'm
Is this
trying to
the
make
second
you cry.
podcast today I'm going to cry
I
on?
know. I wasn't even trying, but let's just be real. I feel you guys.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out to Kyle's sweater. Awesome.
It is cute. Love that.
Look at that. Uh-huh.
Am I serving?
Yes, you're serving. Looks.
Good, because it's hugging my belly and I'm looking a little preggers.
My glasses are covering my bags, but I did not put lipstick on, so I will never do this again without a red lip.
I didn't want to say it.
I know, fail. But I do like the earbuds. I'll get it next time. I'll text you first. I'll be like, does this work?
And I'm like, I guess.
You're going to be like, my God, why?
It's giving, gonna make it work. Kidding.
All right.
We didn't know we were going to be on video. We're so stupid. We should have known.
We should have known. But Craig's like, when am I ever doing anything not on video? Like, what? I know.
Live stream.
Well, wouldn't you with this beautiful face?
I know. He stays ready.
God,
We failed.
porcelain skin.
I know.
Just amazing.
On that note, thank you to everyone who tuned in. We appreciate you. This video will be distributed and chopped up in little pieces.
We put some filters on that too for
I'll
us.
put lipstick filters on it.
Thank you. Kyle too. Let's
All
both
right.
get in.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
thanks everybody. This endeth the broadcast. Thank you, Kyle, for being here with us. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Thanks,
we'll
Bye,
see you soon.
kiddos.
Bye.
Stay well.